We remember when Zombies Chronicles was released, right? Everyone was so excited to play some of the best zombies maps in the franchise history, such as Origins and Ascension, but with new added features. One of the newest features that was added were new Easter eggs. Hidden across each of the maps were little things like the Samantha doll Easter egg or brand new radios. Each Chronicles map introduces a new radio which features Dr. Monty speaking to players about certain aspects behind the map and different parts of the history. Like on Shangri-La, when Monty talks about Brock and Gary, or Ascension, when we get to know a little bit more about Anton Gersh. However, there is one interesting detail that becomes pretty integral to the conversation we're going to be having today. Let's take a listen to the radio and let's see what Dr. Monty has to say.
Ascension, the Russian cosmodrome. I know Nikolai can be a bit down on Soviet technology, but the Ruskies really pulled one out of the bag that time. The Ascension group built a bloody great rocket. It actually worked a treat, too. Do you remember Gersh, the ball guy who fought alongside you for a while? I think Richthofen was off somewhere at the time. Anyway, Gersh ran into a little bit of dimensional distortion. Honestly, why do you insist in meddling with stuff you don't understand? Of course, all their experiments just stirred the reality soup even more. You ended up fighting monkeys. Space monkeys at that. As I'm sure you know, monkeys are thieving little bastards. Give them half a chance and they'll nick anything that isn't nailed down. So, in answer to a question Richthofen once asked, I don't love a monkey.
Okay. What? Let's take a step back for a second here. So back in Black Ops 1, First Strike was the first DLC that was released for the game, which featured the zombies map Ascension. Subsequently, there was a poster made to promote the map, and it featured the classic Ultimis Zombies crew. However, there's one little detail that we kind of all noticed at the time. We are not seeing Richthofen. Nikolai, Takio, and Tank Dempsey are all present in their glorious forms, however, seemingly not Richthofen. On the far left is a bald man in a spacesuit carrying the Thunder Gun. Now, we all just assume that this is a weird concept art version of Richthofen because when we play the map, we do play as Richthofen and even gets an alternate outfit. This spacesuit also later appears on Moon. So we had no reason to believe that this was not Richthofen. It's pretty plausible at the time to believe that this was a piece of art that was made before the map entered its late phase of development. However, Dr. Monty confirms that this is Anton Gersh. Even crazier is that Monty even says that not only is this character Gersh, but the image that we see with him with Ultimus is canon, as he mentions that Gersh had fought with the Ultimis crew while Richthofen was attending to outside business. At face value, this is really cool because it all but confirms a lot of the theories that we all had at the time. The Anton Gersh spacesuit man theory was pretty prevalent back in the day. So this is really neat to know and have confirmed to us. But when you take a second to think about it, it becomes kind of a monkey wrench in the timeline as there's seemingly no room for this event to have ever taken place in the main Ultimus timeline. When we look at the timeline for Kino to Toten, the Ultimus crew discovers a stashed away lunar lander, which proceeds to take them to Ascension over the course of a week. If we look at this strictly from what we know, and just take Treyarch's word, this would mean that the Ultimus crew goes from Kino to Toten to Ascension directly with not a lot in between. When we eventually arrive at Ascension, Gersh pleads for help from Ultimus to release him from the Casimir mechanism before Samantha eventually comes to end his existence. When we listen to the interaction between Gersh and Ultimus, there's nothing about the interaction that implies that either party is familiar with one another, meaning that this is the first time we ever met Gersh.
Guys, no power!
Please, help me. She's coping. The mechanism must be repaired.
I will help you, but only if you get me some vodka.
Later in the Easter egg, once we free Gersh, he travels between time and space, eventually being found again in Gorod Krovi in a non-physical form. Ultimus later teleports forward in time, ending our interaction with Anton Gersh in that timeline. The main detail to take note of here is that when we free Gersh from the Casimir mechanism, he has lost his physical form and no longer is in the confines of a human body. This is how he is able to travel between space and time, as he's not bound by the laws of reality and nature. Another thing of note here is that there is a possibility that either Gersh or the Ultimus crew traveled through time prior to Ascension and may have fought together. However, I personally do not like this scenario, and I will explain why. As I've mentioned in my Noct video, Ultimus has shown that their actions in the past will affect their future. When Ultimus travels to the Pentagon after Shangri-La, they go backwards in time to the same time as Ascension, which caused the outbreak in 5. With this information, it's reasonable to assume that if the crew had interacted in this way, they would remember each other. I would even go as far as to say that this could have prevented Gersh from being put in the Casimir mechanism in the first place. This to me eliminates the possibility of them meeting before the events of Ascension. So they could not have met before or after. So when did we fight with Gersh? Something I had not considered until I saw a comment on my last video that kind of made me think of the Chronicles maps in a completely different way. In Nocturantone's Monty radio, Monty acknowledges the fact that the Ultimus crew had never been to that location before. This presents a theory that Chronicles maps may exist in their own separate dimensions and their own timelines. This to me makes a lot of sense, as it explains away a lot of the detail changes and the game mechanics that are added to these classic maps, such as gobblegum machines and little details such as the 115 rocks changing color completely. With this in mind, this could mean that in a separate universe, Ultimus could have interacted with Gersh in some capacity. The one major hole that this theory has, however, is the way we meet Gersh is the same as in the Chronicles maps. When we first meet Gersh, he is trapped in the Casimir mechanism already, and he is calling for our assistance. This does not eliminate the possibility of this happening in a different universe, but it certainly doesn't happen in the Chronicles timeline. The theory I'm going to present is built on speculation. However, narratively, I think it works, and I think it doesn't disrupt anything important. So, my theory is, in a timeline when Ultimus is traveling to Derice, they may have gotten there a little sooner, which would have allowed them time to find the lunar lander and get to Ascension prior to Gersh's situation with Yuri, which landed him in the Casimir mechanism. What also could have happened is that maybe Ultimus actually traveled to Ascension straight from Derice. Either way, they get to Gersh before Samantha does. This would have almost certainly allowed Ultimus to save Gersh, which would have given them the manpower for Richthofen to feel comfortable with sending the Ultimus crew with Gersh elsewhere on a separate mission, while maybe Richthofen went to the Call of the Dead facility, which in this timeline, because we got things done sooner here, it's possible that they could have went to the Call of the Dead facility sooner than they initially wanted to, which would have allowed Richthofen to freely get his real device and move on with his grand scheme. This would allow a lot of time for Gersh to have fought with Ultimus, which, as Monty says, happened. Now, I want to acknowledge that we may never get a straight answer to this, as this is generally a Zelensky thing that Blundell basically confirmed. There's no real reason for the devs to ever go back to this, and we may never get any more information on this specific thing. However, I think it's still fun to speculate. I also think one of the reasons we may never get answers to this is because the original mystery was solved. We found out who the mystery bald man was. And I think that Treyarch was happy giving us that conclusion, as it doesn't really mean anything to anyone anymore. It doesn't affect the timeline, so ultimately it means nothing to anybody. except for the diehard fans. So Treyarch has no reason to ever look back at this. So I want to dismiss the idea that any of these guys will ever think about this specific niche detail. But I think if a lot of the community started talking about this more and more, I think it could spark enough conversation that maybe someday Blundell or even Zelensky will say a little bit more about it and kind of explain where this would fit. Because as happy as I am to theorize, I think giving the platform for people to theorize further, I kind of want to know what the original plan was here, because this clearly was art made before the map was released, so it was intended that Gersh was supposed to fight with us on Ascension. So it makes me wonder why that didn't happen. And I think it would be really cool to know that, and what Black Ops 1 could have been at the time, and how different it would have shaped the greater Zombies universe. Now, I want to say thank you so much for watching the video. Everyone showed so much support for the last video, and I want to say thank you. Everyone who subbed, I gained about, I want to say like 30, almost 40 subscribers since the knocked video. And that video already has almost 5,000 views. It will probably hit 5,000 views within its first week, which I haven't had any video like that in a long time. So thank you for everyone who gave me a chance. It's new content for me, as I've never made a Zombies video on this channel, and I'm glad that the Zombies community is welcoming me with open arms, and I'm glad that I'm kind of slowly joining the Zombies community, as I want to kind of build this channel up to be that way. You know, it sucks to kind of abandon the content that built my roots, which is this rock history content. I also still love zombies, and I will continue to make Zombies videos going forward, as they're really fun to make. I love researching this stuff, and I want to keep having this group discussion with everyone who loves the same franchise as I do. But that's enough about me. If you like the video, like and subscribe, and we'll see where we go from here. But yeah, have a great day.